So, many people ask me, what is Clear Anglophone Africa about? And in trying to, in a nutshell, respond to that question, I'd speak first to the regional context within which we're located, where in Anglophone Africa, there is a growing level of demand, particularly driven from the civil service and the executive within the civil service, to try to set in place greater systems thinking around how to use evidence based on evaluative work in decision making. And in order to try to respond to that demand, it's about moving away from the long-held tradition of relying on foreign expertise to fly in for 2 weeks, do an evaluation, fly out, and then wonder why there's very little relevance or use of those evaluations as they remain on the bookshelf because they haven't been embedded in a local decision-making environment. So the real purpose of Clear Anglophone Africa is, on the one hand, try to strengthen the demand, particularly from the civil service, parliamentarians, and government administrators, for greater use of evidence in decision making. And in trying to respond to that demand, to really enhance the overall quality and quantity of evaluators. So we have chosen to try to respond to this regional context situation by establishing 4 programmatic areas, such as strengthening national and subnational evaluation systems, which is really about widening and deepening national evaluation systems, which are largely in the making across the continent, some of which are more mature than in other areas. And a lot of the work that we do there is to really think about what is the process for getting a more involved input from various stakeholders in your decision-making process, and how is a big source of that input evidence that's coming out of evaluative thinking and of evaluations. Very important to this widening of decision-making in use of evidence is moving outside of the executive into line departments and getting line departments themselves to be much more robust in the evaluation processes that they have to review their own programming, and in putting through the kind of appropriate planning systems needed for what kind of data do they need to collect. The importance of widening the system is, how does civil society and the legislature play an important downward accountability role in this oversight? And there we've focused a second area of work around strengthening legislative oversight, which is really about trying to figure out who are these decision makers. They're not just senior civil servants, they're also parliamentarians that are representing their constituencies. And how do we equip them to better discern what's good data and bad data when they're given these very large reports from their administrators, which often do not prepare them to make the right decisions. And so working closely with parliamentarians is part of creating a more robust accountability system in the use of evaluation and evidence in decision making. A third area of work that we feel is absolutely essential to continuing to meet this growing demand for evaluation services or research products is around strengthening the supply side. So our strengthening evaluation practice is largely focused on the real, how do we leave a systems legacy, and that's going to be working with higher education institutions, and how do we select a few of those centers of excellence on the continent and get them to begin to work more collaboratively through collaborative curriculum that allows for a circulation of students and professors and an exchange of ideas across the Anglophone region. And from that, we do believe we will create the cohorts needed to provide better evaluations and better products and services in this growing domain to feed the demand. And lastly but not least, the question is of use. And that our approach to use is really around how we have our final area of work, which is called the SCAMAR, the Strengthening Research Knowledge Management, and how you get the kind of learnings from engaging in this area to filter into the actual use of these evaluations. And that kind of cuts to the core of what Clear AA's theory of change is, where we kind of enter in through an engagement with our clients or our partners through the provisions of knowledge products and services, such as technical assistance or research, and then we move to creating knowledge products and new knowledge. And for us, the real way we can try to ensure that it gets used is through communities of practice and through peer-to-peer learning. That somehow sitting in the classroom is not going to cut it in terms of ensuring that knowledge gets used. It's actually through your peer learning. And it's actually through when you sit down and you imbibe it as what you've learned as something that shapes your value system, something that shapes your belief systems, that really helps turn you into a champion for why this is the right way to go going forward. So in a nutshell, that's how our 4 different areas of work come together in our efforts to try to respond to the regional context where we're located. I'd just like to conclude with an invitation for you to peruse our newly launched website, which we are exceptionally enthused about. After 2.5 years of being in this post, I think it's an incredible way of encapsulating the incredible dynamism that's been happening here at Clear AA. And on that note, I bid you a wonderful day.